I'm Ricky Ford, President of Northeast Mississippi Community College. My recollection of 9/11 stands out very vividly in my mind. I was sitting in my office, received word that someone had flown a plane into the World Trade Center. We rushed down to the adjacent office for a TV, and obviously someone had flown a plane into it, and as things began to unveil, it was apparent that we were under attack by another country. This was a terrible feeling, one that we had never ever experienced before. But from that point forward, I began to see a nation come together. I began to see a nation that began to support each other and began to look for ways that we could help each other out and become one as a nation. And my prayer today is that the United States of America would come together into support of each other, and that God would continue to bless this great country. Thank you.
When I heard about the attacks on 9/11, I was a senior at Mississippi State. I was in Harnett Hall preparing to take a mammalogy exam. And so the professor came in and he told us about what had transpired over the last 60 minutes. By that time, the second tower had been hit. I didn't know at that time about the first tower. So I take the exam. I walk back to where I was staying on campus at that time to watch the news coverage. And I remember later in the day or night, my father calling me just to make me aware of the fact that there may be some students on campus that may, because of their ethnic background, may become targets of discrimination. And that didn't really resonate with me at first, but as time progressed, you started to hear these stories in the headlines in the news about that actually being the case. And so, we all know that 9/11 changed the world, it changed America, but if you fast forward to this era of COVID, you still hear instances or stories where people based on their ethnic background have still become targets of discrimination, which tells you that, for some people, their collective response, their reaction to certain events, for some hasn't really changed that much.
On 9/11, I was teaching many years ago at Tishomingo County High School. It was about 3 years before I came on at Northeast. And I remember the day was beautiful, not a cloud in the sky. And we were going about our day as usual. And we didn't have cable, but we had internet. And the teachers at break were, kind of huddled and talking, and they came over and told me that the Twin Towers had been hit. And I immediately called home and called my husband, and he worked the night shift at a movie theater in Tupelo as a manager. So he had been up with my daughter watching the news, and my daughter had gone with my mother to the library. She was only 2.5 years old. And when she came home, she was watching us be really engaged in the news, because one thing that was very hard to do then was to turn the news off, because we were so obsessed with finding out, who had attacked this country, what was going on, were there going to be any more attacks through the night. I thought about the Tombigbee Waterway and all the things that are transported there. My father worked in a nuclear plant, and he was put on a lockdown, and so we couldn't even hear from my dad, no texts going in or out. And most of us we didn't have smartphones then, we had cell phones, but we did get a call that he was okay, but was on lockdown. And so we just kind of wrangled everybody home and got home. They didn't close down the school. Why they didn't close down the school, I'll never know. The President of the United States told everybody to stay home. Unfortunately, my husband had to go to work that night back at the movie theater. Two people showed up to see a movie that night. And because of that, the industry made him stay open and show them the movie. And then he got home pretty late. And we were up all night watching the news and just trying to figure out what was happening. A young couple, a young married, young daughter, lots of fears. So it was a pretty horrendous time. Watched the news a lot. But the one thing that I do want to say was I've never seen in my lifetime my country pull together in such a way as they did on that day, because everybody came together and there was no red America or blue America. It was a purple America. and under it, we were in the ashes together, and we were fighting and struggling to help in any way we could, and we were praying. And our Congress people got out on the Washington Capitol and sang to us, "God Bless America." I remember seeing that and thinking, we're in this together no matter what.
As I reflect back on 9/11, a few things come to my mind. As that day I was patrolling out in the county working for Union County Sheriff's Department when the call came through. We realized that our nation had been under attack from another nation, something that we had never experienced before in our lives. But from that, we want to take it today and honor those for their resilience, those that gave their lives, the sacrifices that our men and women took. And we go from here, one thing that I would ask for our nation is that we realize that together we stand, united we stand, divided we fall.
September 11, 2001 will be one of those days that live with you for the rest of your life, and you can always say where you were at that exact time, just like August 29, 2005, when Hurricane Katrina landed on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. I have the unique distinction of being a student at Northeast and also being a journalist on that day. So 20 years ago, I was walking into Carla Faulkner's U.S. History class as a bearded freshman, and it was the only day that I remember that Carla actually canceled the class. I left Carla's class and went to my apartment at Campus Gardens Apartments with two of my classmates from Kossuth High School, Jason Essery and Jordan Ham. And we watched the news unfold. About 9:30, we knew that Tower 1 had been hit, Tower 2 had been hit, and everything was kind of unfolding, and we'd made something to eat, and I said, look, hey, I got to go to work. At the time, I was working at the Daily Corinthian in Corinth, and I told them, look, just lock up when you leave, I've got to go. I went into work that day, and news editor Kim Jobe, executive editor Mark Baylor, staff photographer Mike McEwen, and the rest of us, we all sat down and we talked about the national news and how we could localize it. We ran Associated Press stories on the front of the newspaper that day, one of the things that we normally did not do. We ran the photos from New York and Pentagon, but we also localized the news that day, and we ran a photo of them closing down the Roscoe Turner Airport in Alcorn County as well. So,
Morning of 9/11, my roommate and I were in a biology lab in McCoy Hall with Mark Hurley, and we, at some point during the lab, he turned on the TV, and we began to see what had happened. The first plane had hit at that point, and the college was dismissed, and classes were canceled the rest of the morning. And we went home back to Walker Avenue, where we were renting a house, and turned on the TV for the rest of the day, and watched in shock and horror, truly, at the events of the rest of the morning and afternoon as it played out, and we began to learn about what exactly had happened. It's a day I won't ever forget.